Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Open Up show. My name is Sivam Velaidam, and I am the founder and president at Voice of Men 360. Voice of Men 360 is a non-profit organization founded in 2020, London, Ontario, Canada, dedicated to supporting men and boys through life challenges. We align with the International Men's Day movement and its six pillars, which promote the well-being of men and boys worldwide. Open Up creates a safe, inclusive space for people from all walks of life to share their life journeys, challenges, and triumphs. The program airs Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, featuring one guest per episode. Before I introduce our special guest for today, I would like to review our disclaimer. We would like to remind everyone that Voice of Men 360 is committed to promoting peaceful harmony in all our interactions. The views and opinions shared by our speakers are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Voice of Men 360. We kindly ask our speakers to avoid specific references to political or religious ideologies or organizations and focus on our missions to inspire positive change. Please note that our content is not a substitute for professional or medical or therapeutic advice. If you are struggling with the personal challenges, we strongly encourage you to reach out to a qualified expert. For questions or concerns about today's episode or any of our content, feel free to email us at info@voiceomen360.org. That's our disclaimer. Um, Today we have an amazing guest all the way from USA. His name is Jordan A.Y. Smith, PhD, Assistant Adjunct Professor, Executive Director at ABK Way Foundation, Executive Director at the Center for Healthy Masculinity, Editor-in-Chief at Tokyo Poetry Journal. Absolutely, I'm going to share a couple of website and email address and his social media handles later on, so you can check him out for those website. You definitely want to check them out. Today we have a man from literature and everything. We want to meet him. Jordan, thank you for joining, Jordan.
Hey, Sivam, so good to see you. Thank you for having me on the show, and thank you everyone for joining us for the conversation today. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I'm really excited. Already kind of nervous. I have a lot of questions, but let's see how much we can cover. Okay.
Sounds great. Yeah.
So you recently co-founded that the Center for Healthy Masculinity. How do you define healthy masculinity, and what is your center's specific approach to it?
Well, interestingly, the definition of healthy masculinity, I think, is not singular, it's plural. It has to do with people feeling comfortable inhabiting masculinity in a way that feels authentic, in a way that feels positive, in a way that is not set up as a defense or a reaction, but kind of comes from within and that fits our values. I think that it invites every man out there to reflect a little bit about what values you hold dear and feel most true to you, and then to work to cultivate those and bring them into the world. So our Center for Healthy Masculinity, which is co-founded with the amazing Dan Griffin, a very good friend of mine and a speaker and an author in the field of men's mental health and substance use disorder recovery. Um, we set this up so that it would give us a chance to research more and to help with advocacy and awareness about the issues that men face at the intersection of trauma and mental health and recovery from addiction.
Absolutely, nice to hear. nowadays, as you can see, of course, we can discuss more, but we need organizations like that and then discussion around that, very, very important. Well, on the same topic, I want to ask this question though. How important is the integration of health, healthy and masculinity? In what way does it help shape a man's life?
I think, I mean, as someone who is personally invested in the men's recovery community in Los Angeles, I have 2 decades of experience in observing people go through recovery from not only addiction and alcoholism, but the host of mental health issues that tend to accompany that. Oftentimes addiction is a kind of bandage that becomes a problem, becomes its own problem, and the problems that it can be bandaging are manifold. And so, having seen people struggle with that over the decades, I think that for men to be fully reintegrated into society after going through periods of, not just bouts of alcoholism or drug addiction or something like that, but depression, struggling with anxiety disorders and PTSD, all of those things compound in what we at the Center for Healthy Masculinity call MAST issues. And MAST, MAST, stands for mental health, addiction, shame, and trauma. And what we find is that any one of those four can complicate healing from any of the others. And so, for example, in recovering from alcoholism or addiction, a lot of men will have unresolved trauma that prevents them from dealing with issues that are going to complicate their recovery. So they might stay sober for a few months or a few years or even 10 years, but then be subject to problems that kind of come back to bite them because they haven't dealt with things like trauma or shame from their past. And I'm not immune from that either. The Center for Healthy Masculinity is not about, you know, a bunch of perfect angels telling everyone else how they're supposed to be. We're people who have been through it. We're people who have made mistakes, but we're people who have also learned to face those mistakes and to try to grow through them to become what we define as better men. So for us, that's better fathers, better friends, better employees, better neighbors, and also better to ourselves. So when we talk about becoming better men, it's not better than other people or comparing ourselves to others. It's, I want to become a better guy than the guy that I was a year ago or 2 years ago or 10 years ago. And paying attention to that trajectory and thinking about how we can grow and also being open about our struggles along the way helps us become fully integrated. I think for a lot of us that devote ourselves to that process over time, any barrier that stands between us and any other person, any barrier that keeps us separated, either from other men who we feel a sense of competition with, or a sense of even fear for, or a general isolation, tends to melt down, and the connectivity grows, the sense of community grows. And a lot of people say that the opposite of addiction is connection. And so, in building those connections with other people and tearing down those borders that are thrown up by shame or by trauma or any other kind of long-term issue that men might face and not want to deal with, we work toward connection. Men tend to have a bit of a hard time because we'll shirk off the problem. Like, oh, I'm fine, I got it, I'm okay, I don't need to talk about it, I've already dealt with it, it's in the past. And so just admitting that there's something there that requires a little bit of work is sometimes a very hard first step to take. And we want to be there to take that step with men and our friends and our families and anyone who's down to grow with us.
Absolutely. I can pretty much relate to that because since I started to work with this organization or, in this field, I came across a lot of stories too. At the same time, nowadays, I'm taking course program called Addiction Recovery for Youth and Families. I'm, getting to learning a lot of things about addiction. So in other words, let's say we can say a lot of us addicted to something, right? It's not only any substance, but also addicted to other areas. Talking about recovery, I want to ask this question though. Regarding life after recovery, what have you found most fascinating about the journeys of the men you have worked with? Could you share a few unforgettable moments you have witnessed?
Oh my God. Yeah, I could sit here for hours and tell stories of the inspiring experiences that I've had, with recovery friends and seeing the lights kind of turn on in people. I mean, it's, the standard pattern is for people to come in a pretty dark place and to not really want to even admit that they have a problem. And in that sense, even just watching someone go from I'm fine, I don't really need to be here, I just kind of checked in because I someone pressured me into it, or I was advised by a doctor or a psychiatrist, or my boss at work said they'd fire me if I don't get sober or something like that. Seeing people go from that to the lights turning on, going, you know what, I have pretty much all the problems. And an interesting litmus test of that is, people working in inventory to look at their past behavior in an objective light, not to beat ourselves up, but just to be really honest about the character flaws that we may have and the havoc that they've wreaked in our lives. And that can be in small forms or big dramatic forms. It doesn't really matter. But seeing people kind of get that they're going to need some help on this journey and then reaching out for help, is absolutely inspiring in and of itself. But the thing that we really emphasize in my community is vibrant living, really getting out there and going to do the fun stuff that we like to do, especially in my men's groups. Um, we like to get a little, wild without drugs and alcohol and debauchery and stuff like that. We like to go out and challenge ourselves to do different things. So whether that means, high speed go-kart racing until we puke, or, chartering a fishing boat and going out on the ocean, going to men's retreats, spending time together at coffee shops, reading holy books, whether it's sutras or a Bible or poetry, doing creative writing. So I'll share just two of my favorite experiences from that generally. One of them was inspired by a friend of mine in Japan, a poet, who we went together to a zoo, and it was myself and two other Japanese poets, and we invited 60 children, 60 elementary kids and their family, their parents, to come and join us at the zoo in Omuta on the island of Kyushu, down south where Nagasaki is. And we wrote poetry from the perspective of animals, and all of the kids would kind of go and sit in front of one of the animal enclosures and meditate on what life would be like for that animal. And then we all got together and read poetry from the animal's perspective, and we gave out awards, and the zookeeper came and gave out an award to his favorite poem and stuff. And we simulated that at the Los Angeles Zoo with a group of men in recovery about a year ago, actually, and had just a great time. And one of the men who was at the zoo with me, his name was Leonard, and he brought his son Logan, very very creative, smart, and funny young boy. And sadly, Leonard, just a few months after that, was killed on his motorcycle, and so memories like that brought us a lot of laughs on the day that we did it. We learned a lot. We learned about each other, and we also just got to have a fun time. But memories like that become indelible as we also say goodbye to our friends, and I think really make the urgency of mortal lives pop for us. And I would also say other experiences I've taken. I moved back after about a decade in Japan. I moved back to Los Angeles a couple years ago. And when I moved back, a lot of the men in my recovery community said, "Damn it, you're back. We wanted to go visit you in Japan. We missed our chance." And so some of them asked if I'd be down to take a trip to Japan with them. And I started curating trips to Japan where we go, and some of it's about recovery, but a lot of it's just about these deep explorations of Japan, and not just going there to do touristy things, but meeting might be a Buddhist priest or a Shinto priest, or some artists or writers, poets, dancers, chefs, people that I worked with in Japan, both as a professor and as the head of production for a media company where we produce master classes about Japanese culture. And just getting to do stuff like that, the freedom to get to know my brothers through travel and through cool and funky and unusual experiences that I would dare to guess most men never have, especially the zoo poetry event. But we just try to keep it funky and fresh and give ourselves new experiences while supporting each other. We have the right to be ourselves. We have the right to laugh and be goofy. We have the right to be super vulnerable. We have the right to express love to each other and to encourage each other, and also to rib each other a little bit too, because that's, at least as far as I inhabit my own masculinity and the way my friends do, we're goofballs. And so it's not just about being serious and sitting around the fire and reflecting deeply about our wounds as men, but we may have times where we open up about those wounds. And sometimes those wounds only come out over years of conversations. So being there for each other and establishing that trust is a big part of the joy too.
Absolutely, I can imagine. I already thinking about those, activities that you guys are doing. So it's very cool stuff. At the same time, as I said, it's not only seriousness or fun, but at the same time, it's a lot of memories that last long, right? It's a really um, that we kind of live with those memories, right? So it's always good to create a fun memories or memorable memories. So let's talk about. I want to ask one personal question. So if you want to answer, you can answer. But if you don't, it's okay. I was thinking like, what was inspired or like how did you influenced with these sort of works, especially with the masculinity and other foundation and everything.
Mm. Yeah, the other foundation is called ABK, and it's the ABK Way Foundation. ABK stands for Always Be Kind. And Always Be Kind, or ABK, is kind of a buzzword in my community and in West Los Angeles as well. And a good friend of mine, Ken Wilson, who is among many things, a retired firefighter and a Zen chaplain, and spent some time in Hollywood as well. Very interesting character. Um, he uh, he began by giving away packages of toiletries and things that people might need if they're homeless, and would give them out to people. And then as he assembled these packages and gave them out around Los Angeles, he realized maybe doing this as a group and kind of founding it as an organization would be wise. So he set up an NPO, and he invited me to serve on the board along with a bunch of our other friends. And then recently asked me to be executive director, and we launched in the fall. And so for me, the two NPOs that I'm now executive director of represent a Venn diagram of some of my most important values. So healthy masculinity being one of them, and I get to cultivate that through my friendship and now partnership with Dan Griffin as co-leaders of this NPO, and then the other one with Ken Wilson, and that is kindness. And the concept of kindness, it's different from just being nice. Kindness can also sometimes be, tough love, or a longer path towards showing compassion and support for people. And the concept of ABK is that we fund small projects. We give micro grants or mini grants from $100 to $1,000 to support any project that's going to put some kindness out there into the world. And the basic philosophy of that is that small acts of kindness have a ripple effect, and people witness others doing kind things, and then that inspires them to do kind things. And so every time we sponsor a project or an event, We support it as volunteers, and we try to attend it when other people are leading it with our funding. And then we always try to make sure that one event turns into multiple events, that other people get inspired and say, "Oh, this is such a cool thing. You guys are what an amazing, beautiful act of kindness. Why are you doing this?" And we can say, "Well, because we just want to see more kindness in the world. We're also doing it as part of this organization, and we would like to see more of that. So if you would like our support and our help and some funding from us to, feel empowered and to make your vision of putting kindness into the world come true, then hit us up. It's an easy application process, and the website is just called abkway.org. So we just started our first projects a couple months back, and just became official on Instagram, and I think we're up to like 40 followers. So if anyone listening is inspired by that, please connect with us, and we'll tell you more about what we do. But yeah, kindness and healthy masculinity come together in some pretty cool ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I already displayed a couple of the websites and also email address, so you guys can reach out to them, check them out. So let's go back to your profession. The profession. So you are teaching students, and how do students typically understand and apply terms like a healthy masculinity and alpha male in their own lives? What do you think?
I think a lot of healthy masculinity, when I say that term, which in the last year since we started setting up this nonprofit, I've started to use the term more. And I know that there are some people who even hear masculinity or masculinity studies, and their defenses might be up. They might start thinking that we're all about the He-Man Woman Haters Club, and it's absolutely not that. People who get it really get it. I was at an event at UCLA just on last week with Ken Wilson from the ABK Way, and we went up to UCLA for an event sponsored by the Badari Kindness Institute at UCLA, and it was about immigration issues and kindness, and fascinating event. But I was talking with people afterwards. It was our first time attending one of their events, so we were kind of introducing ourselves and seeing if there might be some synergy between ABK and the Kindness Institute at UCLA. And I mentioned also offhand that I work with the Center for Healthy Masculinity, and a whole group of people standing around, just their ears perked up when they heard me say that, and they kind of turned, and all of them got it. Most of them were women, and they all got it and just said, "Oh wow, that's cool. We need that. We need that." And that's a really gratifying response, because a black and white world where you either have to be kind of hyper masculine, even toxic masculine kind of identity in order to carve out a space for men and defend against attacks from our enemies known as women. That's just not the world that we want. We want a world of peace, of people of all genders, of all backgrounds. We want men and women to get along. We want men and women to support each other and bring out the best in each other, explore who we are and what gender means to us, but then also to be there for each other. It's not about a competition. And I stay way clear of the concept of the alpha male. I think it's a problematic term. I think healthy masculinity in a lot of ways is an alternate to that, where rather than trying to categorize men into alpha and beta and sigma or whatever other categories of men there supposedly are, healthy masculinity is about being yourself and finding a way to be yourself that fits your ethics. One that you can look yourself in the mirror and be proud of. One that you could tell your parents and your grandparents and your children and your neighbors about and be proud of, and then to enjoy that. And that's pretty much it.
Absolutely, because if you look at a lot of terms, especially some of the terms or some of the movements, the origin is different intention or the reason why they started, but over the time, it's 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 misunderstood or interpreted in a different way, and then carried out in totally in a different way. So that's how the society and people take it into, and doing a lot of different things, and then that's reflected on every one of us, right? So that's very hard. I also want to, respond to your earlier answer, the chain reaction you're talking about, the ripple effect, because it's not really important that how many people or whoever is going to get that message on the other side as we are speaking. We never know. Our intention is only to inspire or make a positive change in somebody's lives or in mind at the time of the listening. And we don't need to know who is going to be on the other side, right? So everybody is thinking, but not taking any actions. So um, it's not a matter of getting the response. Just start whatever you can. So that's all we can do, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for those initiatives and actions that you guys are doing. Amazing to hear. I also let's talk about your the studies as a professor of Japanese studies at UCLA. Do you incorporate gender or masculinity studies into your teaching or research?
Yes. Sometimes obliquely, sometimes directly. I have taught classes, and I have published a few articles that deal with gender. I've translated a lot of contemporary Japanese poets, many of whom are women poets, and I've written a couple of articles about that. One that was published in the U.S. Japan Women's Journal, and I've translated two books by Mizuta Noriko, a fantastic Japanese poet, and also a professor and a university leader in Japan. So some of it comes in through women's studies, feminism, and gender. I haven't done a straight up masculinity studies course, but I have done some courses on authors who explore masculinity in really, really interesting ways. Contemporary Japanese literature brings up a lot of opportunities to reflect on gender, and some of my favorite Japanese poets, who are currently active today, are men who inhabit their masculinity in ways that I find healthy and beautiful and inspiring. And I'll shout out just a couple of them here because I frequently use their poetry in my courses. One of them, his name is Oshima Takeo, who is also a karate black belt and an amazing guy. He leads nature hikes on the Chiba Peninsula, not far from Tokyo, and he's just an absolutely fantastic storyteller and poet. And many of his poems are reflecting on masculinity, on what it means to be a worker and kind of a working class man working in sort of either factory jobs or office jobs that make you feel like you're in a factory for thoughts and ideas and numbers and money, and is very much worth reading. There's a handful of his poems that have been published in Tokyo Poetry Journal, which I used to be the editor in chief for. Now I'm just an editor for, and then the other poet, his name is Michiyama Rain, like Rain, like the rain. Here comes the rain. And Michiyama Rain and Oshima Takeo and I are the ones who went down to the Omuta Zoo together. Michiyama put that together, assembled everything, made that whole thing happen. But he's a guy who he's kind of a bon vivant. He's also a family man and a father. He's very successful in his profession as a well-known creative director. He's produced films. He's written scripts. He's written songs, lyrics. Very prolific and wildly diversely creative guy, who can write poems about his father, who passed away when he was around college age. And one of his favorite poems that I used to hear him read in Tokyo frequently is about his father. And he begins that performance by playing the audio of a phone message on his answering machine from way back in the 90s when there were answering machines. And it was the last message that his father left him. And he begins, with playing his father's voice on the stage, and then launches into this poem. And he's also a very sensitive guy. His poems both invite tears in others and in himself. And a lot of his most recent poetry is about finding the light within yourself and sharing that with the world, and sometimes reminding us of the painful parts of reality that we still need to deal with as a society. And in Japan, that means dealing with some of the Fukushima March 11th, 2011 earthquake and tsunami and nuclear meltdown. And he's got a fantastic film called Futaba, 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 that is winning a whole bunch of awards at film festivals right now. But anyway, those are just two examples of who I think are great poets who are writing about masculinity and being a man in productive ways, and every one of my classes focuses on it from a different lens and through different writers and artists and filmmakers. The list is endless. I could give people a homework list of 100 great Japanese writers to follow up on if they're interested.
No, it's always good to hear a lot of works. It's being done, or it's being happening. Around men and masculinity, not only in one or couple of places, but all around the world, right? So it's we had to do it everything at the same time. So that's the way we can create the momentum, and we can bring a lot of men back to the normal life. But how about, of course, you already mentioned a couple of things, but I just want to get more details or different perspective from this question, though. Your bio mentioned that you facilitate poetry for wellness. So is this a form of creative arts therapy? How did you begin this practice, and what is your experience working with men in this capacity? Because you already mentioned a couple of things. I was really impressed, and then I was so thankful to hear about those ones. But let me hear more, if you can.
Thank you. That's such an important topic, and it's relatively new in my life and in my career. Poetry is not new in my life and in my career. I've been, writing and translating, and have published a book of my own poetry, and have co-authored a couple books. And I think about a little over a year ago, I was writing some poems where I tried to just be really direct and kind of just spit out some resentments that I had. And I wrote a song that I just called My Resentment Song. And it was kind of ridiculous. It was just giving full vent, full freedom to just dish resentments that I had. And after I put that out there and then listened to the song, I laughed so deeply. And then I invited my wife to listen to the song with me, and she's like, I don't want to hear about your resentments. But she came and sat down on my knee, and I played it for her on the computer, and God, we just laughed and cried, and I thought, this is so therapeutic. This is so healing. There has got to be a field or some way to do this as a professional. And I Googled poetry and therapy. And of course, poetry therapy is a field, part of a larger field known as bibliotherapy. And then I found the National Association of Poetry Therapy, which is an American organization, and registered for their conference. And then I found the International Federation of Bibliotherapy and Poetry Therapy, and they've got a certification program. And I have a PhD in comparative literature, and I have written a bit on psychology and psychoanalysis more specifically, but I'm not a doctor of psychology, and I'm not a licensed therapist. So for people like me who want to do poetry therapy, we become what they call certified applied poetry facilitators, because the word therapy is regulated legally. And if we call it therapy, then I think we're supposed to be licensed as therapists. So that's why it's a kind of facilitation of creative therapy type workshops. But I'm not licensed as a therapist, and I'm not trying to get a specifically therapeutic effect for people who come to me and say, I have this issue how can you help me fix it, or what can we do about it? It's more creating a space for people to get really vulnerable. And then I am in training with Dr. Perry Longo, former president of the NAPT, and an amazing mentor. She is a poet herself and has done poetry therapy for hospice patients, for children in schools. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. And every time I facilitate a poetry therapy group while I'm in training, she helps me plan it, gives me feedback on my plans, and then afterwards we kind of debrief and discuss how it went and how it could go better. I work with mental health patients in an IOP, which is an intensive outpatient program in West Los Angeles. And the workshops that I lead are for men and women. There are people who are going through anxiety disorders, depression, sometimes PTSD, sometimes with veterans who are going through pretty serious PTSD, sometimes suicidal ideations. And so the poems that I present are a chance for people to write through some of the demons that they're facing, and also to find hope and articulate paths forward, or just to be funky and free and creative and open in a way that, even though it's not intentionally therapeutic, it may have a therapeutic effect, and sometimes a great one. And of course, laughter is a huge component of therapy. Laughter therapy has its own field called gelatology, and sometimes just bringing in some funny poems that get us laughing is the best medicine. So that's what it's about for me. And I'm pretty new to the field. I'm still in my first year. I've logged about 60 hours as a poetry facilitator, and I plan to keep going.
So from my understanding is that healing and recovery is the most important part of this journey, right? Instead of course, um, beside clinically or medically approaches, but especially for men, the connections and the healing, and whoever is willing to listen, and then if they can find a way to heal, that's the most important thing, is right. So I believe the people who are listening, is they can take in a positive way, instead of this is that is it, you know what I mean.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's absolutely it. Thank you, Savam.
Thank you. So I have a few announcements I just want to quickly share, and then I will come back. I still have a few more questions. I just want to share a couple of important information about our organization, though. Give me 1 minute. So this open up, you guys are listening today at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That's a regular live talk show at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And Willie is a Tamil live talk show on Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Monthly men's group meeting, only for men by men. Second Saturday of every month from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Through Zoom. No recordings. Please join through Zoom. The link is available on our Facebook page and group. There are no limitations on gender, age, nationality, or ethnicity. People from all walks of life can participate in any of our shows. If you like to be a guest on any of our shows, or are interested in joining our organization to help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We would love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. The phone number is 226-289-8784. Email address is info@voiceomen360.org. Website www.voiceomen360.org. You can find us on all the social media platforms, Facebook group page. Join our group to see our daily activities. Of course, you can invite your friends to other social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. There are more than 600 episodes on various topics, including mental health and other topics, so you can absolutely watch it. We want to reach out to more people and help more. Please continue your support. Let's come back to that, questions. Uh, So the question I have quickly, how we can, what's your perspective on men in today's world? Do you believe they are becoming lost or alienated from society? If so, what we are the underlying causes, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think some men are, that's for sure. And I think many men have found their way and found really, really healthy path and really positive ways to contribute to the world. And, I'm not really qualified as a sociologist or a political scientist to say, where things hang in the balance of the world. But what I know for certain is that there are many, many men in this world who are worth emulating, who I learn from actively on a daily basis, not just by reading what they say or by listening to what they say, but by watching exactly what they do, exactly how they treat people and the choices they make and the way that they face the battles and sometimes the tough decisions that they have to make. And my take on that would be that all of us deserve to have people like that in our lives, and we deserve to have a range of healthy choices from people around us. And there are definitely a fair number of people in the world, fair number of men and boys in the world who don't have a lot of role models around them for one reason or another, and who aren't able to find allies in navigating their paths in life. And so, my mission with the Center for Healthy Masculinity, with my teaching at UCLA or other universities, and with the ABK Way Foundation is to let examples like that shine and to help people connect with positive, healthy, and fun mentors and allies and friends that can go with them in their own journeys.
Absolutely. Thank you for the answer. It is very important. Just the last one, Jordan. How we can better integrate men into society? Why is their participation essential?
I mean, in so many ways, the work that men do is the backbone of society, and I don't just mean in the terms of men are the people that build the infrastructures or whatever, but our positive contributions to raising children, our positive contributions to keeping communities vibrant and fun and safe are absolutely crucial. And in terms of how we can integrate men, I mean, I think it's through the things that I mean, there are many ways. First of all, I don't have the only answer. My colleagues, my friends, my allies, we don't have the only answers. There are many, and but connecting with people, getting out there and having fun, being open to new experiences, working through our trauma as men, I think is a big part of it. Everybody has trauma. It doesn't mean that you don't only get to say you have trauma if you've survived a war or a gnarly car accident or something like a massive injury. The growing up produces some kind of trauma in everybody, and I think for men, we have the responsibility to work through it, and we have great opportunities to work through it using more and more of the resources that are out there. And I think men are starting to develop more of a language of, um, that show us familiar, available, and easy to understand ways to work through our trauma, and to not let our trauma guide us, to not let any issues that we have, any shame that we have, any fear transform into anger or other negative emotions and actions, and just be guided by the positive in everything that we do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jordan. It is very very important. Of course, all the information, all your experiences, expertise, and everything is very valid for other men too. Of course, it inspires in some ways myself and other people too. At the same time, the reason why I brought that question is that when we see the number, the suicide rate all around the world, 78 to 80% men. So that's why they are part of this society. They are part of this community. So we want you guys. Men out there. So please take care of yourself. Thank you, Jordan. It is a great honor. At the same time, it's we will bring you back some other times and then discuss more. I really have more questions, but let's stop here and then we will discuss more in the future. Thank you, Jordan, once again. Thank you.
Thanks so much, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Absolutely. There are a lot of people tuning in, and then thank you for watching. And continue, support at the same time. Please share these videos with other people and the information with other people so we can reach more people. Thanks a lot, Jordan, once again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.